right, and welcome to this premiere episode of Minnesota Drummer, the podcast, the video podcast.
Yeah.
Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Paul. Good to see you, man.
Oh, I got to introduce myself. I'm Paul the Rog Rogney.
That's right. And I'm David Stanek.
There we go. So we've had a lot of, you and I have been in the works of doing this for some time now. I think the first time that we talked about doing this was the day Robin Williams passed away.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember the date on that, but you and I...
No, it's been a minute, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, a nice beginning out of a sad occasion, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And so, now there's been a lot of news going on in Minnesota.
Yes.
And internationally as well. But we got to start off immediately, I think, with the passing of Neil Peart.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a real milestone, for music fans around the world, certainly drummers.
Right.
He was a legend in his own time.
Mm-hmm.
And brought a lot of people a lot of happiness.
So did you know Neil?
Not at all.
So you did some work at Drum Channel, though.
Yes, I did, but he wasn't around when I was there.
Okay.
We were there with Walfredo Reyes Sr. We were working on the video for what was called the 2-in-1 Drummer Project, and that was a book and a DVD that we shot at Drum Channel. And 2-in-1 Drummer was a book that was conceived by Walfredo and then my teacher from here in Minnesota, Elliot Fine. A lot of people's teacher, really.
Yeah.
Here in Minnesota, for sure. And it was the last project that Elliot worked on.
Okay.
And, it was not to go down that rabbit hole too long, but that was the kind of thing where at their age, being in their 70s and their 80s, at that point in time, Walfredo and Elliot, when they were working on this project, and half a continent apart, really not too tech savvy as far as a lot of internet and digital and things were concerned. And so, I would do anything for Elliot. And it was actually, I think they were having a conversation with Dom Famularo, and Dom said, the guy you need is right in front of you. So call Dave and ask him to help out. And so they did. And I said yes. And then I have a former student who lives out in Oregon now. His name's Mark Powers. And Mark did all the finale work for my book. And so I hired him to help me be able to realize the things those guys wanted to see in print, in design, in real time. They had some really interesting ideas.
Okay.
All that happened. We got the book done. Elliot's portion was done, really, and then he passed away before we were done with it. But then we went out there and shot with Walfredo, which was a great experience. But unfortunately, no Neil Peart while we were there.
Yeah, figures.
Yeah, but to get back on track about Neil.
Well, before we get back to Neil, I got to find out from you, because we're talking drums here. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your relationship with Dom?
Oh, well, I never really had a personal relationship with Dom for as long back as I've been aware of him or maybe first met him. I mean, I met him when I was pretty much fresh out of college and had moved to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I saw him do a couple clinics out there, one with Billy Cobham, and there's another one that I can picture, and it was on a bill with somebody else, but I can't even think of who that was right now.
Okay.
But anyway, Dom's reputation precedes him, and he is known as Global's drumming ambassador, and he does a lot of great things for a lot of people in our industry, drummers particularly. He provides a lot of opportunities. So how I got to know him, again, has to do with Elliot Fine. And it was very, very early after my first self-publication of my book, Mastering the Tables of Time. And I believe somehow Elliot got a copy to Dom. And one day I was home and the phone rang and I picked it up and I said, hello. And, you can just imagine, Dom Famularo, and I can't really imitate his voice, but that's his exuberance, right? Which is always so, just like positive and energetic. And
right.
And so I was kind of like, oh, wow. Hi, Dom. What can I do for you? And he says, I got a couple questions for you, but the first one is, what kind of sticks do you have in your stick bag? And, there's one of my stick bags right there.
Yeah.
So guess, you know. I had been a big fan of Vic Firth sticks ever since I got my first pair in college, which I think was either a pair of SD2s or an SD4, the maple, sticks, and
Right.
they were so different and so interesting to me. Having grown up on fine sticks by Regal Tip and Promark, but the Vic Firth sticks had a little bit more of a mystique. They weren't as readily available when I was younger in the shops in town here, but then in Madison, where I went to college, got a pair, really liked them, and kind of fell in love with them ever since. And then, I'd also used some sticks by some other people, but anyway, the majority of the stuff was Vic Firth. So I told him Vic Firth, and he said, "Well, that's great." He says, "Because I have a copy of your book, and we love what you're doing, and we need people like you on our artist roster to be part of our educational division at Vic Firth. So I'm calling to see if you would like to be a part of the Vic Firth family."
What a compliment.
It was wonderful. Yeah. And so, that wasn't a hard decision. And I feel good about the fact, I guess if one thing I could take pride in is that I'm blessed with what my educational representative at Remo, Bruce Jacoby, calls A-list endorsements.
Okay.
Because I work with Vic, and I work with Yamaha, and I work with Peisty, and I work with Remo, and I work with Latin Percussion and Prologix. And I am prideful in the fact that they all came to me. I never have asked anybody for anything. Closest maybe was when I was doing the 2-in-1 drummer project, and we were getting ready to do the Percussive Art Society International Convention, PASIC 2013, with Walfredo and myself and Mark. We were going to play and demonstrate things from the book, pay tribute to Elliot and four-way coordination, Marv, and which all turned out great. As we were preparing for the event, Walfredo endorses the Gone Bops line, and they make great stuff. And artist rep for Gone Bops is the same gentleman that signed me to Peisty, Richard Magicaro. And Richard's a wonderful guy. I got to know him through Eddie Clift when Eddie was, all the years Eddie spent at Peisty as well. And I would love to be working with Rich on things, but we were getting ready to do PASIC, and he knew I didn't have a percussion endorsement, and I wasn't really looking for one. But he said, "Can I get you hooked up with Gone Bops?" And I said, "I really appreciate that, Rich." And I said, "And I would go out of my way to work with you again." I said, "But I have to be honest with you." I said, "Everything I've got is LP. Everything from the time I was a kid, and that's what I'm really comfortable with. And I had a lot of the essential percussion instruments that I need." So I was like, I just don't know that it'd be the best idea right now, but thank you. About a week went by, and I got a phone call from a gentleman named Memo Acevedo, who was the artist rep for Latin Percussion.
Okay.
And he said, "Rich called me." And I knew Memo. He said, "I want to get you signed up and bring you into the LP family." And I was like, wow. So I owe that one to Rich. Kind of a behind the scenes kind of thing. But anyway, that's how I know Dom. He, again, through the love and support I received from Elliot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I owe Elliot that one. I owe Elliot a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of people seem to owe Elliot a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
And later on, as we do more episodes, we're going to teach you more about who he was as a person, as a teacher. I'm kind of excited about that because
that would be a pleasure.
I've always known his name, but I never had an opportunity to meet him. Met his brother many times at Music Plus.
Yeah. Leo. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Man. Leo. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm excited.
Trumpeter.
But I have to say one thing, though.
Okay.
Can I drop a little bit of a hint?
Yeah, sure.
So, Vic Firth, if you're watching right now, I've been using your sticks since about 1990 or before.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The classic rock and classic metal wood tip. So classic metal is a little bit longer. I can't remember the length of it.
Okay.
But it was designed for Tommy Lee. That's why it's Tommy Lee. The sticks look a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's the one with the red nylon tip. Wasn't that his? Didn't he have the red, like the fingernail polish red when he was on the Vic Firth roster?
Yes, but they changed it. So it used to be a Tommy Lee model. Then they changed it to the classic metal, I think.
Okay.
And they made it wood tip, but it had blue labeling on it.
Gotcha.
So, but that was back in the 90s. So I haven't seen the metal since then, but I still use a classic rock.
Gotcha. Hey,
all
right. the people at Vic Firth are wonderful, and they're part of the Zildjian family now. Zildjian bought
Oh, I
the company, or
forgot
well,
about
how I think the proper way to say it is Vic sold the company to the Zildjian family,
that. Okay.
and so many of the people that I've known for many years at Vic Firth now wear both hats, and they still do the things they did for Vic Firth, but they're also in these leadership roles at Zildjian as well.
So for a while, Zildjian had their own stick. Do you know who was manufacturing their sticks?
I've always heard it was Vic Firth, but I don't know really for sure.
Okay.
But they're up there in Boston, so it would make sense.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, the quality of the
Or
Zildjian stick.
Massachusetts, I should say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the quality of the Zildjian stick I heard was really good, but I just couldn't imagine a cymbal manufacturer getting into sticks and having a success right away. So I was wondering if you ever knew the backstory.
That one I don't.
Okay.
Maybe someday I will.
Yeah.
As dedicated as a artist as I am with all the companies that I work with, because I always was already using their products anyway. I was always fond of the Bill Stewart model of Zildjian stick.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's like that's just got a nice feel to it. It's sort of like if you get the Steve Gadd Vic Firth sticks, you kind of hope it'll make you sound more like him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for me, it's never worked.
yeah, because I'm a big Bill Stewart fan. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's get back to Neil then.
Yes, sir.
So talk to me a little bit about what Neil meant to you as a player.
Well, he embodied kind of the same kind of vibe in I think his I don't know how to put it. The exciting way he played drums, that I think he and I had similar influences, although he was obviously much farther along than I was. But Billy Cobham and the Mahavishnu Orchestra
Mm-hmm.
is undeniably an influence on Neil's playing. I mean, because all you have to do is hear those. Different people call them different things: the four-stroke roughs, the hurtas, the that was really like a Billy Cobham thing.
Okay.
Originally, and then when I heard Neil Peart doing that, I was like, oh, because that's a cool sound.
Mm-hmm.
Going around the toms like that was a real classic thing at a certain point in time. And so I think I heard him doing that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I got to check this guy out, because he obviously likes Billy Cobham too.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw them, I think I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the what was the album with Closer to the Heart? A Farewell to King? No.
Fly by Night?
No. Yeah, A Farewell to Kings. It was that record. Closer to the Heart was the radio hit from that one, and I think it was at the Met Center.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and which is now an IKEA, and that was cool. Yeah, he had that the big red Slingerland kit.
Ooh.
And the chimes and
Thomas set.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're right. It was the Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the chimes and all of that, and it was cool.
Visually, that must have been just mind blowing.
It was cool. Yeah. It was. I mean, I was a little spoiled because I'd already seen the Who and Led Zeppelin by then.
Okay.
And Rush really, to be honest, never fully impacted me as being all in with them as like the Who or Led Zeppelin did, but it was still cool because here was a great band with a great drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of slept on them for a while after that. But I remember my senior year of high school, Spirit of Radio from Permanent Waves was a song that really got my attention, because it seemed like they threw everything in it, including the kitchen sink, and were really having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin Kirk, who I hope sees this, he would challenge me to learn how to play it, and I had fun with that. And then a couple of years later, when I was in college in Madison, Moving Pictures came out, and then that was it for me. It was like, that was such a phenomenal record, even just, and I've talked about this in a couple other places because there's tributes floating around, but even just the sound of it, I mean, the sound, the high fidelity of that record was on a new level. It felt like you were in the room with the band if you played it through a set of, and in those days we had some speakers in our living room at the house in Madison that were, like almost as tall as my youngest son. So you could really get a lot of clarity and a lot of energy. And just, I liked the songs. I liked that, the times, that period in the 80s, things were getting kind of stripped down,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought they did a really good job of kind of like trimming the excess from their music, but still adding all the surprise that made Rush Rush.
Right.
And man, I mean, so the songs, the music, the lyrics, the drumming, I mean, for me, that came together maybe the best for me of all, and probably for a lot of people, but then I saw the tour,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw the tour after that.
Wait, you saw Moving Pictures too?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was very exciting.
And the crowds must have been insane because that was, I mean, everywhere. When the Tom Sawyer would come on,
Yeah,
people would just lose their minds.
absolutely.
So, I mean, I can only imagine what the audience would have been like.
Well, I was in there. Yeah, I was in there air drumming with the faithful, and that was a fun experience. I mean, it really was. I went to their next tour too when Signals came out.
Okay.
And but the show was so much the same as it had been from the Moving Pictures tour, with just some of the Signals stuff added, that it might have been a little bit of the jazz snob in me at the time, but I was kind of like, okay, this is basically the same show, and that's great, but I've seen this show.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that experience with a couple other pop bands, and I probably wouldn't feel that way anymore. I've learned things, you know what I mean? But at that time in my life, it was probably this mindset where it's like, boy, this tour sounds a lot like the last one, because I remember the second time I saw Jethro Tull, I felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
The second time I saw Fleetwood Mac, I felt that way.
Well, I think that's a legitimate claim, though, because at that time in their career,
Yeah.
it's tour, record, tour, record.
Right.
So they don't have time to really, any downtime to really bring anything in.
And I understand that better now than I did in those days.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
so you make an excellent point, because
Well, I think your claim is dead on.
Yeah.
I've experienced that too. But when a band's at the height of their
Right.
career and they don't have time to.
No. Well, I mean, I tour with a singer now where it's like we have a really solid repertoire, and yes, it changes, but I mean, it's built around staples that he's always going to want to play,
Mm-hmm.
and always go over, even with the people that follow him and come see show after show. But like I understand it a little bit better from the driver's seat now too. It's just kind of part of the way things are.
Right.
But see, it's different than a lot of the jazz artists I would go see at that time. The improvisation is such a big part of it that the repertoire could change really a lot, but the basic way the band operated would be the same, because you just pick a tune and then you play over that tune's vibe, whatever the style is, whatever the tempo is, and so you can always be kind of pulling out new songs, but you're essentially approaching them the same way, but the idea is that it's different every night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it took me I think a while to realize how things were just kind of done differently in terms of the type of show you're putting on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that was great seeing Neil Peart do the Tom Sawyer stuff, all the Moving Picture stuff. I mean, he really, I mean, he had a lot of good years after that, but for me, that was the peak.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I was never, as deeply aware of what they were doing on a record by tour basis after that, just because sometimes you find the record that is really the one for you, and then
Right.
after that, but to this day, I still enjoy Moving Pictures. My kids really liked Red Barchetta.
Yep.
When they were little.
Mm-hmm.
I said, check this song out, and they could understand the lyrics, and you could see the video with the race car, and the animation, and they liked that, and it was a way for me to kind of I think elevate their consciousness a little bit about music and storytelling through music,
Mm-hmm.
which is something else that Neil Peart deserves a lot of credit for, because he was the lyricist for the band. And man, I read a post on Facebook from a woman who I don't know
Mm-hmm.
personally, but a lot of people know her because she's a very popular singer around here and in Nashville. Her name's Pamela McNeil, and she left a post on Facebook that just I thought was really touching, because she talked about how sad she was to hear of his passing, and talked so much about like what the songs meant to her
Mm-hmm.
and the lyrics meant to her in relationship to how her life was growing up, her social scene, all this kind of stuff like that. And I think that the demographic for Rush is decidedly male,
Hmm.
you know. And so to hear Pamela talk about how deeply affected, because she's a singer-songwriter.
Okay.
And so to hear her talk about how deeply affected she was by the impact his lyrics had on her, I thought that was really cool, because that's the side of it that, a lot of the drummers, are probably digging, and some get it, but not everybody's paying that much attention to it, maybe,
Right.
but he was gifted that way. And he was a gifted author, he I've been thinking about this lately too, because of course I contributed to the Minnesota Drummer
Hmm.
tribute to Neil Peart, and I was asked by Modern Drummer to say a few words, and that'll be coming out in a month or two. And in my role as drum set editor for the Percussive Arts Society's, membership magazine, Percussive Notes, I just turned in a big tribute that we are doing to Neil in our April issue. So, it's been on my mind a lot, the kind of man he was, and he suffered a lot of tragedy.
Hmm.
He basically lost a family and then started a new one, and then unfortunately lost a battle with cancer. But when he lost that first family, his daughter and his wife, quit the band, kind of went into an existential, like just and he wrote this book about it, The Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And man, I felt compelled to read that book, because I thought, this is bigger than just being a drummer. It's how does somebody cope with something like that?
Right.
And it was a fascinating read,
Hmm.
and I guess the point I was getting to was he was a guy who really, I think, worked at living a meaningful life,
Hmm.
and I know that the people that I know that were close to him were very impacted, not by his passing. Well, yes, by his passing, but that wasn't what I was going to say. But just by the kind of person he was, that made his passing extremely difficult,
Right.
as you can imagine. And then you look at the outpouring around the world of all the people who have been, here being Minnesotans, right? I think of the day Prince died,
Hmm.
and the outpouring that came from that, and honestly, I haven't seen anything like that up until Neil Peart passed away.
Yeah.
The outpouring around the world has just been, just like uh, incredible.
Right.
I'm just trying to find a right word. And it just goes to show you the power of music. Prince,
Right.
Neil Peart, somebody like that. It's like sometimes it goes deeper than we even realize.
Hmm.
And you know, it's only been, it was early January that Neil passed away, so
Yeah.
it hasn't been that long, and tributes are, and people are still, it's still streaming everywhere, all the emotions people have, and the tributes, and all that, so he definitely had an impact. He's certainly one of those drummers that made people want to play drums
Yeah.
and choose to go in the direction of being a drummer. You know what I mean? And so I can only have great respect for somebody with that kind of impact, because I'm on that path myself, and I know who the people were that got me excited to be that way. And it was a little before his time,
Hmm.
but whoever it is that makes you feel like that's the direction you want to go, that's a powerful thing.
He really brought a lot of his intellectual way of thinking into the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like the song "Free Will" to this day,
Yeah,
it actually aggravates me because if you choose not to choose,
you're right.
you
You
don't.
still made a choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like you jerk.
yeah,
But his ability to touch so many people's lives and hearts through lyrics and drumming, I don't think it really actually resonated with him. The more I read about him and try to get an understanding of who he is,
mm-hmm.
it's not that he didn't care. I don't
Right.
think it registered, and he was just such a normal person. And I think that the world is still waiting. I don't think this really hit everyone yet,
No, I get it. Yeah.
because I think we all had in the back of our minds the hope that there'd be one more tour, like they might get together, or one more drumming event that he
Yeah.
would do.
I was just writing about that a day or two ago as I was finishing up the article that we'll have in tribute to him in the PAS magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that most of the fans knew he had retired, but were holding out hope for, nobody knew what was going on behind the scenes,
Yeah,
or very few people did.
but that's still amazing to me that he was able to keep it silent.
Uh huh.
I mean, it's unbelievable because you'd almost think that would have been front page news. Because some people claim that, oh, it was in the news, it was like this. So I did a search. I've not seen anything on the web.
No,
I was
no.
completely blindsided by
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm kind of nosy that way.
Yeah. When are we airing this?
Next couple weeks.
Okay. Yeah. So in the next month, when the issue of Percussive Notes that I've worked on comes out, it's not a big secret or a surprise. I mean, we're I asked people who had personal relationships with him in our industry, that were behind the scenes and not just all about product and support, but actual friendships, to share some of their experience with me, to try to, you know, just create a more intimate look at his character. And the reason I mention it is because, to a person, um, they all talk about the idea that, like, he really wasn't wired to be a star. That wasn't what interested him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he certainly enjoyed some of the perks that come with stardom. He had a classic car collection and some stuff like that, but he didn't go around thinking he was all that. He was I think, proud of what he did, worked hard at what he did to be good and to uphold the standard that his band set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they talk about how he would, you mentioned Drum Channel earlier on. Well, yeah, why would I see Neil Peart at Drum Channel? Well, if people don't know, he would go there to rehearse himself for a couple weeks every day before Rush as a band would begin tour rehearsals that would probably last a couple weeks to a month, going over their songs and their staging and everything like that. And he was just that dedicated. He would get himself in shape before the band got in shape,
Right.
and then hit the road, and it would, and so he had that kind of dedication. And yeah, I think he was kind of shy, but he still did a lot of nice things for people. When the articles come out, I'll save some of that for. I won't give anything away about that, because I think these are the things that people will enjoy reading. But
Okay.
it all seemed that he was, really like a pretty straight shooter. He'd tell you what he wanted, needed. Did that go down on you?
All right, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to this view.
It's not awkward at all, is it?
Hey, it is what it is, right?
So technology failed me, but where there's a ROG, there's a way, baby.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I watched him troubleshoot this problem, because he had these GoPro cameras that you've seen us on up to this point,
Right.
working and charged for 3 hours. But we haven't been here 3 hours, and they had 9% back after what, about 40 minutes? We've been
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So GoPro, pick up your game.
Yeah. Because now iPhone's saving the day. Hi there.
Until I get a phone call on that thing. Let's see what happens then.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, so we'll keep on moving.
Yes, absolutely.
We got so many things we got to cover today.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone along with Neil Peart, which is probably why the GoPro went to sleep on us, because we were talking about Neil too much. I just want to say a couple things. A lot of people forget about the original drummer of Rush, John Rusty.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So he actually his brother came up with the name Rush. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
And do you know that the original members of Rush were Gary Weinrib and Alex Zinahovich? Later to become Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson.
They changed their names.
Yes.
Wow.
I love all these little... it's like, I've never been a massive, huge fan of Rush like you. I appreciated them.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed what they've done. And I've become a fan of their music, but it's not something that's not my first go-to.
Yeah,
But I really love Test for Echo, Roll the Bones. No, not Roll the Bones. What is their big comeback? Vapor Trails.
Oh, yeah.
But I buy all of their live DVDs because their energy live is
Yeah.
unparalleled.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you're a drummer, and you get to watch a great drummer. I mean, beyond the fact that it's a good band.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in 2011 or 2008, John passed away from a heart attack and complications of diabetes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
I did not know that.
but he was also credited with the original direction of Rush and his drive for the band. So
Interesting. I
he,
wonder why. I don't know anything about like his departure from the band.
well, so there's a number of things. So there were health issues.
Okay, well that's a shame.
There were health issues, and I think he had some kind of chemical issues.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And real informal here, people. Sorry. And but that's why he left the band. But I think that's a very important part of the history of Neil Peart, because if he would not have left, he would not have had a Neil Peart, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, my ride's here.
Do you ride on the back of it?
Pretty much.
So, did you know that?
Sorry.
Can you make any more noise?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
I got sticks in my hands. I could do that, right?
Do you know how tall Neil Peart was? Peart. I've been saying it the wrong way.
Yeah,
Peart.
I've been kind of. I keep thinking maybe I should say it's Peart.
Why don't you tell me that? Because I feel like a fool now. Okay, so how tall do you think he was?
I get the feeling he was tall, but I don't know.
Well, how tall are you?
I'm about 6'4".
He was 6'4".
Okay, yeah.
I didn't know he was that tall.
Wow. I just heard the other day, maybe it was yesterday, that Danny Carey of Tool is 6'7".
Yeah, he's tall.
And I have met him and stood next to him, and he is
right.
I mean, and I don't do that very much, being 6'4".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fact, I think I only know 3 drummers that are taller than me, and one is him, and one is JR. I think is a little taller than
Robinson?
I am. Yeah, and or at least my height.
Okay.
And Tommy Igo, I think, has an inch or two on me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're tall guys.
Yeah, Danny he's way up there.
Danny's a big dude, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. Super cool.
Very cool guy. I actually, the Vic Firth people got me next to him for a minute when I was writing an article in tribute to what I think was the 40th anniversary of Four-Way Coordination.
Okay.
For Modern Drummer.
Yeah.
To recognize the book, and Danny in interviews had talked about what a important book and study that was for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to some people, and like I said, it was at a NAMM show. The Vic Firth people got me next to Danny when he was at their booth for a meet and greet, and we got a few minutes together. And I was working really hard just to try to make it quick.
Yeah.
You know, and it went kind of quick, and I'll do this just for my wife. Okay.
She wants to be on camera. That's her problem.
That's right. That's right. And what was funny was, okay, so I'm thinking, all right, I don't want to bother this guy.
Yeah.
So I tell him what I'm doing, and I ask him the question, and he thinks about it, and he gives me a quote. And I start to walk away, and he comes after me and stops me and says, "No, wait, I wanted to say this instead." And I'm like, all right, and I'm writing it down, and I'm like, so blah, 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 blah. And he goes, yeah, and I got it. And I walk away, and I'm leaving, and all of a sudden he's coming back after me again. And he goes, wait. No, I really wanted to say this. I really want to get it right. And I'm like, take all the time you need, man. You know, it's like, I'm just trying not to bother you. But he went the extra mile just to basically make 2-3 sentences convey exactly how important that was to him, which I really appreciated. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah. He's a smart cat, and he's also really disarming to me. I mean, just as a person, I'm not a huge. I'm kind of a huge Tool fan, but just being somebody with iconic status,
sure.
Kind of you always think they're going to be a certain way, but he was just so normal.
Well, and like Neil Peart, who I'm sure was a big influence on Danny.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting. I mean, that's where we're at now. You know, you've got drummers who have made a big mark in music and in drumming, like a Danny Carey, like a Mike Portnoy, that, you know, come very much from the Neil Peart influence and mold. You know, that's a thing. Yeah. You know.
Well, you know what I think we got to do? We got to move on a little bit just because Neil, again, his passing. Please go visit the Minnesota Drummer website. And there we have a great tribute from Minnesota drummers.
It is really good. It is. There's a lot of great contributions there.
Plus a great story, just quickly, Rob Shanahan, our local rock star photographer, as well as a good drummer.
Yeah.
He does so many iconic photographs. I want you to be able to look up his story too. So go to the Minnesota Drummer website, search Neil Peart. Peart. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Peart.
Peart. Yeah.
We all learn every day. I called him Neil Peart for a long time.
Well, I should know Peart hair,
Yeah.
hair shampoo.
Right.
Anyways.
Right. They're spelled differently though.
Okay.
Yeah. Peart shampoo, I think, is just P-E-R-T. We were talking about this. This is
Dude,
funny.
so that's why I'm throwing off.
P-E-A-R-T is it Peart, you know.
That's
But
my-
I mean, hey, look,
Yeah.
you know, pasty.
Yeah.
Pasty. You know, it's like, you know, it happens, right?
Yeah.
You know, I talked to
Tama.
Tama. I talked to Carmine a piece about this once, and Carmine was like, I said, so what's the proper pronunciation of your last name? He says, his answer was, I can't help you. He said because I say a piece, but he said my brother Vinny says Appice, and he says, and my other brother says a beachy.
Yeah, beachy.
So, excuse me. It's like he's like, I don't know, you know. And I was like, okay, so there's no wrong answer, at least not in Carmine's case.
Right. So I had Vinny on Rog talking drums, and he said the exact same thing, but he doesn't like to say a piece because he says it sounds like a piece of pizza. So, you know, that's a good argument.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I want to quickly get an update from you. This year has just been amazing for you, I think, already. You've just been so busy. Let's start with the PAS. That was such a big part of your life right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you give us some highlights?
Well, that was just I've been a member of the PAS since for about 12 years now.
Okay.
And about 2008. And I've been a member of the drum set committee at PASIC for can't remember exactly when I went in there, 2015 maybe, something like that. I really don't remember. It's been a few years now.
Okay.
And before that, I had a really great, excuse me, I'm going to get a little comfortable here. I did my first clinic there in 2010.
Okay.
And that was on the heels of the release of my book, Mastering the Tables of Time. And that clinic was a real game changer for me. Mm-hmm. I had a packed house, an all-star packed house.
Wow.
And a lot of great things happened for me. Yamaha signed me immediately after the clinic. A lot of friends and supporters in the room, you know, and a lot of people with names you'll all recognize, but I don't need to get into that right now. And then I presented again in 2013 with Walfredo Reyes Sr. and my friend and former student Mark Powers, and that was a real honor for me to play with Walfredo because he's a legend, you know, and and so getting involved in PAS has been fun and I think worthwhile for me because they stress education. And their convention every year is super entertaining. You know, it's like you got 3-4 days of drummers doing, you know, clinics and concerts with their groups. And it's not just drum set. I focus on drum set because that's what I consider myself as a drum set player.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, you see every facet of percussion from everywhere around the world. So, you know, within drum set, you're going to see people from all kinds of musical styles and all kinds of cultures. Same with all the hand percussion. You know, I mean, you get people from all over the globe and the world percussion and you know, I mean, so you see, you know, you have all the classical people and you have the marimba culture and you have taiko and you have all the drum line going on. PASIC often runs in tandem with Bands of America's DCI presentations that are usually going on when it's in Indianapolis, which is often simultaneously.
Okay.
And then, you know, so like, you know, if you can think of it, it's at PASIC. So, I mean, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to see. It's a cool environment because everybody that goes there, including these people who are the biggest names in the industry, are just hanging around. They're accessible.
Wow.
You know, and
well, in comparison into NAMM,
yeah,
what's the size of the venue?
You're in a convention center, you know, like, I mean, okay, so NAMM is just plain huge. You're out in the Anaheim conventions. I'm talking about Winter NAMM.
Yes.
You're in the Anaheim Convention Center, and even like Yamaha just is in one of the hotels next door, you know, which is all in walking distance because they, you know, Yamaha is the world's largest musical manufacturer. So everything that they've got, they actually need like a whole place of their own. And but so at the NAMM convention, it's everything in music,
Okay.
production, instruments, all kinds of instruments,
Hmm.
and it's a mob scene. It's so crowded.
Right.
It reminds me of those pictures you'd see of, and I remember this actually because I was in Times Square in the 70s, like just that crowded every day, like
Hmm.
people on top of people. And at PASIC, then, by contrast, you're in a convention center,
Hmm.
but it's set up differently. There is an expo, just like NAMM, but it's purely drums and percussion, maybe some schools, maybe some sound reinforcement.
Hmm.
Certainly stuff that percussionists and drummers, everywhere would use. So it's a little more spread out. It's not as like overwhelmingly crowded, which isn't to say that it's not crowded. It's
Right.
busy, but there's a little more breathing room. And then of course they have all these rooms set up where, I mean, PASIC's going to run, a day at the convention runs clinics and concerts. The clinics run from 9 to 6,
Okay.
and there's at least 5 things going on at once in the convention center every hour.
Hmm.
So there's a lot going on in 3 4 days, and then there are evening concerts, and those are pretty exciting. You get to see, I mean, and a lot of that tends to be not exclusively drum set, but drum set player heavy because everybody, you know, the drum set's the best. Okay, I said it. So it's like, and so it's exciting. So to be involved with them now, is fun because there is a movement in there to try to not only modernize the PAS in terms of like the idea that PAS was founded very much on the idea that NAMM is built on. It
Hmm.
was founded by guys like Vic Firth, Remo Belli, probably, Fred Gretsch, Bud Slingerland, Bill Ludwig, people who
Hmm.
had their own businesses. And the idea was, what can we do to create an environment that brings drummers and percussionists together and helps us promote and sell our products? And and the idea was, we'll create this event where there's education
Hmm.
and concerts. And PAS was founded the year I was born. I'm exactly as old as the PAS.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and 26, and so no,
And
but
holding.
yeah, a little older than that. But so over the years, because I think a huge target market for these businesses is universities,
Hmm.
because universities with their orchestra programs and their percussion ensembles and stuff like that. I mean, they're big movers of sales
Hmm.
for these guys. And so the influence of the university and the academic approach of many universities has kind of, like people in those positions kind of took over roles in the PAS, and
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. Really good. But there's a movement afoot to try to open the doors a little wider, embrace more of the culture that's not coming through the colleges, only because there is culture
Hmm.
that's not coming through the colleges.
Okay.
And we would like to see everything, like the music of the street, man.
Hmm.
It's like, we want to see that more represented as well. And we want to be able to do outreach
Hmm.
to people who aren't members, and ultimately, sure, maybe get them interested because they can benefit from it. I went to I can honestly say one of the reasons that I'm interested in being a part of the PAS is because when I finally went to my first PASIC convention, I was really sorry I'd waited.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I was so impressed and so blown away and so happy and
Hmm.
so, I just kind of, it was like, like you kind of felt like you found your tribe,
Okay.
and so I like that vibe,
Hmm.
and now I have a little bit of a hand in shaping that. And so taking on the role of drum set editor was offered to me. And, I'm in a position where I taught at McNally Smith for a good many years. And when that school closed, I decided to open my own teaching business.
Well, coincidentally, as long as you've been alive, 27 years.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's just.
I started out right out of the gate. And so, uh, but I've been looking at new ways to, further my career, broaden my career, and rebuild my income because I don't have that job anymore.
Right.
And so every little bit helps. So what's kind of cool is that I'm open and available to do more things with more people as a performer and as an educator and as somebody that does do some literary work in percussion, books, editing, articles. So it's been kind of exciting to be the editor, and it's been going on since this summer. I got a handful of issues under my belt, and it's a great opportunity because there are people that contribute. It doesn't have to all come from me. I'm the editor. I am not responsible for creating everything. So, like for instance, Minnesota people. I've had in just the short time that I've been the editor, I've been able to present some stuff that Gordy Knudsen had written and sent to the magazine that deals with the hand technique concepts of the open close stroke that he's so adept with, and felt good to be able to do that because I worked with Gordy for so long, and I think that what he does, I know how what he does with that works for me, and I think that it's certainly the kind of thing that people can benefit from having in their arsenal of their technique. And so to be able to be in a position where I can say, well, hey, I can help introduce this, at least to a wider audience within the PAS, it feels good because I believe in it,
Right.
and so I get a lot of different kind of submissions, and I try to do something a little bit different each issue so that it's not all one kind of thing. And then sometimes, like, it's interesting, like with this Neil Peart tribute, it was just kind of like, it was a lesson in, like, well, life is what happens when you're making other plans sometimes.
Yeah.
And so what we might have had planned for, actually, we were already pretty much done with production of this issue that's coming out next month. But we decided the right thing to do was to take on the moment. And it put us all a little behind schedule, but for a good reason.
Right.
And so I'm proud of what I know will be coming, and I'm really glad that I'm done with my part in it right now because it took a couple months. And I just sent it off a couple days ago, and it's now in the hands of a gentleman named Rick Mattingly, whose interviews with the greatest drummers in the world I grew up reading when Modern Drummer was a brand new magazine, and he's the senior editor of the Percussive Arts Society. So all the new people in all the positions that are doing all the hip things we are doing, he's supportive of, and everything that we come up with and put together and edit goes to him for final cut because he's the pro, man.
Right.
And just a really cool guy, and real straight shooter, man. He's just real straight ahead, So it always comes out well, and I'm proud to be able to work with somebody like that whose work influenced me, because those early interviews in Modern Drummer magazine were lessons for me. I learned certain things about how to play and how to behave as a player, and what to expect in certain kind of professional situations before I actually experienced them, because of the attention I paid to the interviews I read in Modern Drummer with people that like Rick Mattingly and Robin Flans were interviewing in those days, and the kind of situations they were involved in, the kind of pressure they could feel like they were under, where to draw the line between, like, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, what's professional and what's personal in a situation like that. I had a handle on how to deal with those things when I was first faced with them, because I got to read articles that were, interviews that were, conducted by a guy like Rick, where he knew the right questions to ask, and so to be able to work with a guy like that right now, I'm proud of that, and it's fun.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the PAS thing for me right now.
I was going to ask you, with this issue, though, this is going to be such a big issue for a lot of people that are not PASIC members.
Right.
Will this be available for people to purchase that are not members? Or is that a good business decision for them to do?
Let me answer it like this, because I understand exactly what you're saying. And here's what we've decided. It will not be available for purchase, but it will be available for free.
How's that?
We're going to put it out open online.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Wow.
No, we do that from time to time.
Okay.
We do that like with the PASIC preview issue so that anybody can see what's coming, because that's good for us.
Right.
And this is the kind of thing where, again, there's an advantage to us to outreach. And we know that Neil Peart has fans all over the world. So for our contribution to be exclusive in paying tribute to him, I don't think does the task justice.
Hmm.
I think we benefit more from making it available to anybody because what we're offering
Right.
with the direction of our tribute will be somewhat different than what you'll see in the other fine magazines that will be doing tributes, like Modern Drummer and Drumhead.
Right.
Everybody's going to do their thing, and it's going to be cool, and some of it might end up all looking kind of the same, but everybody will have their own spin on it.
Right.
And so I think that if you're a huge fan of Neil Peart, which a lot of people are, you're the kind of person then that will want to take in as much as you can get.
Right. Well, exactly.
So we're making that available.
Plus, he's such a legend that I think he's a crossover, and
He certainly is.
and I think that's going to open that up. So that's fantastic, but I see we're running out of time. So
Okay.
I got to ask you one quick question, though. I was
Yeah,
excited with our first podcast when I interviewed you.
Yeah.
You had talked about the PAS and some of the performers coming up, and I think you actually dropped the name on my interview that you did with me with Tommy Aldridge. So I'm a huge fan of Tommy.
Yeah.
I've met him numerous times. He's a great guy. What was his performance like at that PASIC?
It was very exciting. It
Yeah.
was exciting for all of us to have Tommy Aldridge there. A story that I only know a bit of the backstory on was he went on late because they were having sound issues,
Okay.
and it took a minute to get them all sorted out, which was frustrating for Tommy and for the people who are in charge of these events.
Right.
Because when the doors open late, either the clinic goes short or everything else gets pushed back.
Right.
But it was Tommy Aldridge, so the clinic didn't go short. Everything else got pushed back.
So awesome.
And
So rock and roll.
and sweet guy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I hung out with him much. In fact, I didn't even meet him there. I met him a couple months later at NAMM.
Okay.
And it was cool because I was at the I was with my Vic Firth people at the Vic Firth Zildjian booth at NAMM, and Tommy ran in just to say hi to Joe Testa, because I think Joe and Tommy go back to Yamaha,
Okay.
and it was exciting to see that, just that I'm here. I'm going to make sure I see my buddy, and it made Joe feel good, I'm sure. And it was, Tommy was gracious enough to say hello to everybody, and just, he wasn't trying to make it about him. He just wanted to say hi to Joe.
Right.
And but at the performance, it was cool. I mean, I had seen Tommy play before, and he's a powerhouse, and he's a very compelling player to watch, and so all of that was in there. I think the music in the room could have been louder. They have certain decibel restrictions. Tommy's energy with a band wasn't quite as well represented, I think, with the mix of the tracks he was playing with.
Okay.
And it's because the drums were a little over. You really, he probably heard in his in-ears more of like how everything he was doing fit for the song.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard drums more than the rest of it, so I suppose given the occasion, that's the better option if
Right.
it has to be one way or the other.
Yeah.
But, like I would have been happy had it been like just blaring like it would have been at a Whitesnake show or
Right,
something
yeah.
like that. You know what I mean?
So how many songs did he play?
Oh,
Perform versus I'm sure he did an extended drum solo.
Yes, he did at the end. I don't remember exactly how many songs it was, but it was pretty much there was more performing than him talking,
So
and it lasted 50 minutes.
Okay.
That everybody gets 50 minutes, 50.
So with him, are there any standout questions that were asked of him that you thought were kind of interesting?
Paul, I don't remember. Those days are long.
Well, you're
And-
working it too. So.
Well, yeah, I go from place to place, but and I actually had to go run out a little early because I was on a educational panel discussion that was immediately following that with some great drummers like Jim Riley from Rascal Flatts and Jason Gianni from Drummers Collective and stuff, and Joe Bergamini, and so I had to cut out a little bit early, but I think I don't know that he fielded that many questions, to be honest with you. I think he just mostly played, and because if I think back on it for a minute, I don't remember Q&A being part of it. I think he was chomping at the bit to play, and everybody wanted to hear him play. And occasionally it goes like that. Some of the
Hmm.
clinics are more like just performances,
Right.
um, and sometimes that kind of revolves around what the artist feels comfortable with. I think in Tommy's case, because they got the late start, everybody just wanted to hear him play,
Right. Okay.
and he was probably more comfortable with that.
Hmm.
You know.
Were there any other standout? That's a really horrible question because everybody you had performing that weekend or that time period was world class. Are there any other clinics that you saw yourself that
Oh
stood out?
yeah, sure. I mean, and there are every year. It's like I haven't thought about it for a minute, so I have
So
to
I'm
kind
putting you on
of
the
go back.
spot.
Yeah, no, Ash Sohn.
Okay.
Ash Sohn from England
Hmm.
was excellent. Stanton was there. He's always great. Walfredo Reyes Jr.,
Okay.
who's just a phenomenal drummer, son of Walfredo Reyes Sr., who we've
Hmm.
been talking about quite a bit. And boy, there were certainly more. In the moment, I'm a little bit at a loss. It's been a few months,
Okay.
and I see so much there that sometimes after a few months go by, I forget which year I saw who.
But then you had Nam. So
Right.
so you went right into Nam pretty much after that.
Yeah, just a couple months. You go through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's Nam time,
Right.
New Year's.
So boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Any standouts at Nam? Anything you
Well,
saw
I
interesting?
mean, I was there for a special occasion. I actually wasn't planning to go this year,
Okay.
and then I got tapped by an organization within NAM, similar to the PASIC idea. They're called the Percussion Marketing Council,
Hmm.
and the driving force on my end for that is, excuse me, global product manager for Yamaha, Dave Jewell, who
Hmm.
used to be drum product manager for many years. And he invited me, he and Greg Crane, the artist relations manager, tapped myself and a great drummer named Gordon Campbell, who lives in Los Angeles, played with George Duke for many years, was the American Idol drummer through the whole arc of the original heyday
Okay.
of that show. Also, currently teaches at Musicians Institute and does a lot of different things. We are from Yamaha, and then there's a couple great drummers. Rich Redmond, who's a great drummer and clinician who plays with country artist Jason Aldean. In fact, they're in town at the time of this taping. They're in town tomorrow night at Target
Okay.
Center. And then Rick Latham, who a lot of people know from his book Advanced Funk Studies,
Hmm.
which was a real window into a new style of playing when it was first, released, and very, very on time for a lot of us who liked that kind of playing that you would hear guys like Harvey Mason, Steve Gadd, uh, James Gadsden, David Garibaldi, that
Hmm.
that that kind of hipper funk kind of thing that involved, kind of some rudimental background and some
Okay.
stuff like that. Anyway, the four of us were tapped to be part of the Percussion Marketing Council's 25th anniversary campaign, where they create opportunities through retailers for players to be better educated and then experience drums, and which in turn helps sell equipment. And so for their 25th anniversary, they have a promotion going on. It'll start next month. It's called Lessons with a Master. And so I was invited to be a master.
Oh, really?
And so I'm one of four drummers. These other guys I mentioned, Gordon and Rich and Rick,
Hmm.
who people can enter this free contest as much as they want. And each of us will give two Skype lessons to anybody chosen from around the world, free, um, just to work on what they want to work on and further drumming education.
Hmm.
And that's only one of a few programs they're offering this year. But when I was chosen, which was a great honor and
Hmm.
is a great honor,
Right.
they said, we're having a kickoff event at NAM. There's a press conference. It'd be great if you could get there. The reason I wasn't going to NAM was because I was actually starting a tour that same weekend with Sean Johnson, the singer
Hmm.
I work with, who's I'm musical director for and band leader for, really, I guess is a better way to put it. And we did about 2 weeks of shows in January out on the West Coast in California and Arizona. So since the tour was starting the Saturday of NAM weekend, I thought, well, I'm kind of too busy to go. But then this thing happened, and they said, "Can you make it?" And it turned out that kickoff and that press conference were on the first full day of public NAM, or NAM on the Thursday.
Hmm.
So I got myself out there early, and I took advantage of that, and then went on the tour. But yeah, I had 2 days at NAM to catch up with my people, see friends, see former students.
Hmm.
One thing that was cool was one of my former students, a gal named Glory Yard.
Hmm.
She had just in December performed with Lizzo on Saturday Night Live on the episode that Eddie Murphy hosted, which really turned out to be the biggest Saturday Night Live in years, having Eddie back.
Oh,
And then
exactly. Yeah.
Lizzo's, of course, was great as a musical guest, and my former McNally Smith student Gloria was playing drums with her, and I was able to take her to the Vic Firth people and hook her up, and they're interested. They've signed her, and
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, and so like that kind of thing, because it's harder than ever to get an endorsement deal these days. You have to swing a pretty wide bat.
Right.
But I got in touch with, when I heard Gloria was doing the event, I got in touch with the people there, and I said, check her out.
Right.
That's all I said. It's like, because for a debut, she's swinging a pretty big bat,
Right.
and she's a world-class player just waiting for an opportunity, and she got that opportunity. And so she was at the convention, so I got to introduce her personally to the team there, and that was another highlight for me, and saw some other students who are all there working in the business. Nowadays it's like that. It's like, it's cool to see the stars that are walking around. It's great to talk to the people with the companies that I work with, and sometimes we make plans for things for the coming year, which I really appreciate. But even now more than ever, I get to see former students of mine there
Right.
who are in the business and are doing cool things,
Yeah.
and
It's gonna be exciting.
it makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just, again, we all like the same stuff. We're all part of the same experience, and so to, as you get older, to be able to see people that are younger that have that same passion and are making a career out of it is exciting.
Mhm.
It feels good to
Right.
maybe have played a small part in their dedication to what they're trying to do, and to see it working out for some of them like that is just beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Glory. It was cool to see her playing. The chops were tight.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I saw a post that David gave the other day about your new pedals. He has
yeah.
brought the pedals along to give us an open box. What is that called?
Yeah, a box
Box
opening.
opening.
A box opening. That's right.
So what I'm going to do is while he's getting his knife out, which be careful about knives.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to go and get my phone, and this is going to change everything again. That perspective, so
Yeah.
people don't get scared.
No,
This is
no,
this
we're
is
gonna have a box opening.
a box opening. That's it.
That's it.
So, but I gotta get my phone over here because it's got to be close up.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about this. So, people who are longtime listeners to Minnesota Drummer,
Yes.
the podcast, Derek S. Abrams was a guest that I had on episode 5. And he is a Yamaha endorsee as well. He played
Okay.
with Ministry. He
Yes.
actually recently left Ministry in December.
Oh, okay.
But he was very excited about these pedals coming out, the FP9s.
Yes.
And as we're unboxing them, can you talk a little bit about them? Do you have a lot of knowledge about these?
Well, what I know is that it's probably the biggest advancement in the pedals of the post Hagi era of Yamaha, because Hagi retired and he's the guy that designed all the incredible Yamaha hardware that everybody loves. And this design was engineered primarily by
A Minnesota native, Steve Fisher.
Wait, so he also did the DW 9000s?
Mm,
No, is this?
that was Lucas Jacobson.
So that's another Minnesota.
Yeah, Steve Fisher. Steve Fisher is a super cool guy who grew up in Bloomington and studied with Elliott Fine.
Okay.
And went out to L.A. and played and worked with a lot of people. He was in Maynard Ferguson's band. He did a lot of great stuff like that.
Wow.
And then he got involved in the industry. And Steve's the guy who invented Roland's V drums.
Really?
That's his invention. And then in more recent years, he has left Roland and gone to work for Yamaha. And then his first big invention with Yamaha is the EAD-10, which is the mic and trigger unit that everybody loves so much that you just
pop out of the box, and it has a upper mic and a lower mic
Yeah.
for that, and you pop it on your snare and you run it through the little brain that's attached, and you can have just wide open natural sounds of the drums, or you can have all kinds of like pre-programmed sounds that the microphones actually trigger, and you get incredible sound quality. And the EAD10 is a phenomenon. And so then now Steve has turned some of his knowledge into the design of these pedals, and I believe that they're, a lighter, fleeter design. There's some tie in to the motorcycles. I'm not really sure what that is, but uh, uh, we'll open them up and we'll find out. This is my dad's hunting knife that I carry around with me, and makes for a great resource when it's time to do it.
You move my mic.
FP9 box opening.
Yeah, just move that so I can hear you talk.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm probably talking a little bit under. So, yeah, I'm not even sure what all, how ready to go these are. I'm guessing they're pretty ready to go. Check this out. They come in this beautiful, let's see if I can do this right. They come in this beautiful case that you get to pack them in. It's kind of a step up. Not that this is so new anymore, but I grew up just putting my pedal in the trap case with everything else, and so it's nice nowadays that with these, these beautiful high performance pedals that you can carry them in their own molded case. That's beautiful. I'm good just right now. And let's see how you doing. Okay, so we'll open up the case. We've got it out of the package. We've got it out of the plastic. We're opening it up. This must be, I can feel some weight here, so I'm guessing this is the linkage, because it is the double pedal. And, yep. Look at that. Ooh, check out the blue. I don't know if you can see the color there. Mm-hmm. That's lovely. And that goes in it. Yeah, it's nice that it's got its own dedicated spot. And then we'll take the cardboard off. Oh, and here we go. Look at this. Wow. Oh, I see. Okay, so right here. There's one. Oh my goodness.
Those are nice and beefy.
Look at that. Yes, it is.
Is that a longboard or is that a split board?
Yes, it is. It is a longboard, and
Okay.
I don't know if it splits open. It might. I know they have a manual in here. I've played on these, but I haven't had a chance to tinker with them yet.
Okay.
And but let's pull this out.
So when did you last play these? Ooh, yeah, I gotta close up on that.
Yeah, I played them. I think first. They've been out a little over a year or so. I think I first saw them. I can't remember if it was PASIC or NAMM, but I played them at Yamaha at their booth at one of the events.
Okay.
And they make everything accessible so you can try it out, which is really cool. Look at that. Yeah, so it is a longer footboard for sure, which is good because I wear like a size 12 to 13 shoe, and I opted for, this is the direct drive.
Okay.
And so unlike the strap or the chain, I'm not super fond of chain pedals.
So why is that?
I've had better luck with straps because I feel like they just stay with my foot better.
Okay.
And then like the original direct drive pedal would really be like the Ludwig Speed King because it had the metal clamp.
Yeah.
And I liked the Ludwig Speed King, but they always felt a little small for my foot. Mm-hmm. But a Yamaha design that precedes this one was the Flying Dragon. Mm-hmm. And I got a set of the Flying Dragon pedals with a direct drive and really liked the direct action. There's no latency. There's a little bit of latency with the chain.
Okay.
And less so with the strap. But this it's like, boom, you tap it, you're hitting.
So there's a direct linkage there. So that's the idea. There's to remove any slop.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be any side to side movement.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and it looks like it's beautifully reinforced as well. And then of course you can see here. This would be the spring for the main pedal, which I'm holding. This is obviously the main unit, and then the second pedal would attach here with a spring here. looks like there's improved design on how to be able to kind of twist the action if needed to, and nice easy
Oh,
way to
interesting.
clamp in, and simple.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a little bit of a redesign from the Dragons, where there was the thing underneath, and they had a special kind of L wrench and some stuff. This is back to a simpler kind of design. I like that. So that looks beautiful.
So have you ever played a DW9000, an Axis, and an Iron Cobra?
I have. All
Okay.
of them.
So what would you compare the feel of this to those? So like an Axis to me is really lightweight, and you can't overpower it.
Uh-huh.
With a 9000, you have no slop at all.
Right.
It's totally linear, but it has nice medium weight to it.
Yep.
An Iron Cobra seems to have power and really, again, it feels like a 9000, but it seems more like it flows with your foot.
Right. I would describe this pedal just on what I've used. The initial experience I had playing it, which is what led me to want to get a set of my own, as the best of all those worlds.
Really?
Honestly, yeah.
Wow.
Because, and I know it's easy for me to say that being a Yamaha artist, but there's a reason I'm a Yamaha artist, and that's because they produce stuff like this.
Right.
I mean, with the direct drive, you don't have any slop, and with the type of design this is on the footboard, you could liken it to the Access, and then all of these settings are here to help you. You can adjust the action. I'm not even sure how to do it all yet, but I remember them walking me through it and showing me how easy it would be to adjust and readjust all the angles and the action to get what you want. And so, the other aspect you mentioned was power. If you want power, you can dial it in really quickly in the way that works best for you. It doesn't have to be like, if you like this kind of thing, get this kind of pedal. It's like, how do you play? The pedal will adapt to you.
Now, two things with this. It looks like there's a linear setting on these. You can actually raise this to change your action.
Right.
So you're tacking your head.
Yep.
Now, one interesting thing is, so I've done a lot of hardware design.
Yeah.
Bobby Rondinelli is not only a hero of mine, but he's been a friend of mine, and we talked about designing bass drum pedals. And to him, if you hit a bass drum pedal once, and it rocks back and forth with a nice balance to it, at least 4 or 5 times, that's the optimum design for pedal. This one will not allow you to do that. What is the plus, do you think, with this? You won't have that countering back and forth.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Just
I don't know. I wouldn't know if that was true until I tried it.
It's just, I like to hear other people's opinions of what.
Well, I'm gonna like it because it's gonna stay with my foot. I mean, that's what I know from playing.
Okay.
It stays with my foot, and it feels. I think you could have any kind of tension you want, and it's still gonna feel fluid. For me, I want to use the word light. And I like that feeling. Other people might want it to be heavy, and you can certainly dial it in. I mean, there is weight under here.
Yeah.
And
reinforcement.
yeah, and so if you're a stomper and you want a lot of power, you can dial that in. If you want it to feel real fleet and a pedal that feels like it moves fast but doesn't have a lot of extra stuff like this going on, which I think now I understand is what you were saying. I think you're still going to get that kind of motion. You know what I mean? And because you can see it there, but it's not as, like a chain would be looser,
Okay.
and would wobble more, and like just one good way to practice your bass drum technique, just to get a feel for it, is, now I didn't make this up. I think I saw Jojo Mayer talk about this in one of his videos where he really focused in on foot technique. When you see where the pedal naturally wants to go, in terms of like the rhythm it would create, try to get your foot moving at that rate of speed,
Okay.
and then just kind of try to adjust your technique accordingly, And with a design like this, I've learned a long time ago that for me, I have a big foot, but if finding the sweet spot means finding the place where the toe or the ball of your foot would work best, whether you play heel down or heel up, where you can get the beater to the head, boom, and back to where the spring is slack with the least amount of effort. So the farther our toe goes up the footboard, the more space here we have to traverse to get this to there. From back here, you can find the sweet spot where you can feel like the beater is bouncing like you're dribbling a ball. But if you're back in this sweet spot, you're only needing to go from about here to here, as opposed to from there to there. You know, like
Right.
it can almost be the distance of a half an inch to another full inch. And so if you want to have speed and power, you're better off back here. And it always kind of eluded me where to find that up here until I started to realize that I need to pay more attention to where this hinge is in the back, whether it's a flat board and it's under, or it's a split board and it's over. Because what I started to realize, and you can bring this out a little bit, and I'll put this up to my foot. You know, here's my hinge. This is the ankle, right? If my ankle is forward of this hinge, these two machines, my foot and this pedal, are not going to operate in sync as well as they would if I've got my heel directly behind the hinge. And then that way, all the power I need, heel down, or if I want speed, or all this kind of stuff, you know, that would be natural. My foot is going to work. And so I like, just like with my hand technique, I use a variety of hand techniques. And so with my foot technique, if I want to play heel down, you know, in general, then I can have the, here's my ankle, there's the hinge, and I'll be able to get the head, and I'll get a good sound, and it'll feel good, and it'll be powerful, and I can rock up, and I could bounce from my leg, or I could move from my ankle, you know, into the head. And this is staying right with me, you know what I mean? And I don't even have the beater on it yet because we don't have a drum here, but I can just feel every stroke slow, you know, and if I'm doing heel toe stuff, or, you know, twisting a little bit by coming in from a higher plane, I can feel that the action is staying right with me. And so ideally in the engineering, I should say, it's going to, you know, it's still my foot's job to do the job, but the more I understand how the pedal works, the better we can work together. And honestly, nowadays, the better the pedal, the better the odds are that you'll get the desired result. You still have to practice. You still have to do the work. An amazing pedal like this is not going to make you a better drummer overall. Right. But it might make it easier for you to execute some of your ideas. But you still have to do the work. You know what I mean? But I mean, this is a pedal designed to give you every advantage because they understand at Yamaha exactly all those different things that different people like in a pedal. And this seems to me to be the answer to that question, you know, like, you know, does one size fit all? Because you can set this up and align it to be any way you like, you know, and so it's extremely versatile that way. And I'm excited to get my game together. I've got a couple ideas for some ideas, I've got plans for a couple ideas that I've wanted to explore in double bass drumming in particular, that I'm looking forward to being able to enjoy using these pedals to help me develop, you know, and that's all I'll say about them right now, because it's not meant to be anything revolutionary or mind-blowing, but it will be some stuff that I'll want to be able to share with people, you know, through my teaching and my website and in performance once I kind of get these ideas worked out. So something to look forward to for me.
Definitely. Well, you're not really a double bass player.
What's that?
You're not really a double bass player. I don't think I've ever seen you play double bass.
You know, I've used the pedal.
Okay.
And when I first started with Sean's band, I actually had my Flying Dragons with me all the time.
Okay.
And, you know, that's a band that's become even more of a pop kind of sound than it was when it first started. I'll just hold it.
Well, can we see the other one?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. I'm like, come on, let's open this baby up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're not even all the way there yet, are we?
Oh.
So.
Thing of beauty.
Okay. So here's lefty, because I'm a righty, and you know, very much out of the traditional playbook of a big band drummer, like who really was the guy that developed the double bass drum sound, Louis Bellson. Mm-hmm. and very traditional applications that you would hear rock drummers do is what I'm, like me with my current double bass drum technique. Those are the things I know,
Okay.
and they're fun, and I like the idea um, of having a second pedal because I've worked very hard on my single pedal development and I'm very comfortable with that as being, more of who I am. But with the double pedal, um, if there's a rhythm I want to play that, you know, um, is coming from the bottom up in my sound, which I think is the way the drums should be played,
Hmm.
from the bottom up. If I can play every other instrument on my kit, a drum or a cymbal with two sticks,
Hmm.
why can't I play my bass drum with 2 feet if I want to?
Hmm.
And again, it's just a different approach, and it's not the thing that defines me as a player, but it certainly is fun to dabble with. And it makes it, when used the right way, and double bass drumming has really evolved. Marvin Elliott in Four Way Coordination said the drummer of the future will be as adept with their feet as they are with their hands, and we're living in that time.
Hmm.
you know and so that's cool. I don't ever really expect that I'm going to be that dialed in of a player with my feet,
Hmm.
but I like to mess around, and I like the way that when I work on I've learned this when I work on really balanced exercises with both feet, on a bass drum, like a double bass drum kind of idea. When I go back to play my regular stuff, with a hi hat and a bass drum, I just feel that much more grounded. It's interesting that way, even though I use the pedals different ways.
Hmm.
It's just the more you work with your feet, the better you're going to get with your feet.
Right.
However you play, and so I enjoy that. The biggest lesson for me in double bass drumming was to try to get a really solid triplet feel together, because when you play 16s, everything leads to the right, and I'm right-handed, so everything on my right side is really strong. But when you play like, and you are alternating the downbeats, getting that to actually feel triplety, it requires sort of a natural accent,
Hmm.
and building that up and building speed up on that was just one thing that I thought, if I can get that feeling good, then whatever else I do from there, in a lot of ways, is going to be less. And I experiment with different techniques, but I'm not. I mean, there are so many. I've got students that over the years that phenomenal double bass players.
Hmm.
It's just a thing now. And a lot of the music that I grew up listening to didn't really demand that kind of technique, but it was there. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Louis Bellson, I mentioned Billy Cobham earlier. Guys like that, Terry Bozzio,
Mm.
and Terry Bozzio uh, gets a nod in my book for being exceptionally creative with double bass drums, and not in a way where it was always all about like speed and playing fast rolls, which is very vogue nowadays, and there are some guys that can do that, gals, people that can do that remarkably. But just in terms of being musical, and like Bozzio was the first guy that I ever heard play double bass where he used phrasing with flams and mixed stickings, as it were, and to get different kinds of sounds, and uh, I like to mess around with that a little bit too, just because um, it was so novel to me when I first heard it,
Hmm.
and I still think that that's a standard, and I don't really even hear a lot of people do that so much even nowadays in the double bass drumming. A lot of it is either a lot of steady streams of notes, either in beats or inside hand combinations, and all of that is really cool. But more of the broken rhythm kind of thing, a flam kind of option with the hands and stuff like that. And Bozzio took a cue from Louis Bellson, where Louis would do a lot of that call and response stuff with the. But Bozzio's got that kind of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
thing, right? And
that actually came off pretty well. Whew, but I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a few things in mind that other people do better, but that I want to be able to incorporate into my playing, and I'm blessed now that I can shed, using these because I'm grateful, and they're a lot of fun, and it's fun to play, and it's fun to practice.
All right, so now we're back situated the way we should be.
That's right.
Thank you for showing me these amazing pedals. At the end, I'm going to do a beauty shot of this whole thing.
Yeah, we put them all together, so now they're happening.
Yeah.
All we need now is a drum. Yeah.
Hey, that's what we can do next time.
That's right.
No, I'm seriously excited about this. So, did you see how Axis recently released a universal adapter for like DW pedals and other ones that essentially increase the size of this joint or universal joint, so you can use it across the board, so it'll actually improve the use of the pedal. I see this, and you see the extra size.
Yeah.
And
yeah, those are parts that have definitely gotten more heavy duty over the years.
I'm just really impressed with this pedal because it just looks so well constructed. It looks so well balanced.
Yeah.
The pedal board, I got to say, I'm really shocked at how large that thing is. But I think, it'd be really cool to play around with those pedals.
Oh yeah.
So I'll give them back to you whenever you want.
Uh-huh. Wait. Did you hear that? Okay. So yeah. No, I'm very excited. It's like being a kid in a candy store when you get the opportunity to mess around with something like that, and I'm very grateful to everybody at Yamaha who looks after me that way and creates opportunities for me. And so in turn, I like to maybe just like definitely want to share it with everybody, because I can, and so I'm hoping to get some good tap dancing in on these here in the short term.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, make sure to follow Dave at davidstanek.com. Take lessons from him. You can do them online, whether you're watching this anywhere around the world.
Thank you, Paul.
You can see it. It's just amazing. You're a great teacher. I am going to become a student of yours, I swear.
You heard it here first.
And also, if you know of any drummers in Minnesota that you think should be featured on Minnesota Drummer, please drop us a line. Go to the website.
By all means.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's lots of great players here, and for as many as I know, and I know a lot, there's a lot out there that I don't know. In fact, you've been interviewing people on the site, and it's kind of a split thing with some of these guys I know better than others, and then there's a few guys who are doing really, really, really interesting things that I'm just not aware of at all. Because it's like at a certain point, it's hard to keep up with what everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that I don't want to know it. Because I love checking everything out and everybody. So there's definitely, just through the time that you've been up and you've been doing that. I've become aware of some players that are really fantastic and doing really cool things, and I had no clue. So it's super useful that way. The website, get to know your Minnesota drummers, man, because we're out there and we're doing it, and there's a lot of people. We'll never run out of people to feature on this show.
No, never.
Well,
plus all the people that are behind the scenes in the music industry, as you talked about, or the drumming industry, drumming community, who designed this again?
Steve Fisher.
Steve Fisher. So Steve Fisher, a Minnesotan, developed this and the Roland V drum kit. I mean, that's something I learned tonight.
And the EAD-10.
Yeah, that's
right.
Fantastic.
He's a brilliant man and a great drummer. It's and a super cool guy.
We have a lot of people, a lot of gems in Minnesota like that we want to feature, and hopefully we'll be doing more of that really soon. This is, again, the very first video podcast, and we've had a few issues, and we'll fix them in time. Well, the thing is, I have all these video cameras for like production.
Right.
They're too cumbersome for everything. But we are starting to film the video version of this. So we're going to have 10 to 12 episodes per year. Yeah. It'll come out once a week, where we're going to feature a musician or a drummer, or a product, or something historical.
Maybe have guests.
Oh, totally. Well, guests will come on the podcast. Because, we can take this on the road more too. And one thing I'm really excited about is after I had Ollie Manley on the podcast, episode 6.
Yeah.
Again, I've had the pleasure of knowing him for well over 20 years.
He was
Um,
always at Marv's shop when I was a kid, man. He was always he's great.
it's so cool because when I had him on the show and I did that, the amount of messages that have been left and sent to me about how, they knew Ollie, and Ollie was such a presence in this town, especially
Yes.
at the Marv at Thompson's Drums.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was like an indispensable fixture there.
Hmm.
Really, he was. His knowledge of parts and his sense of humor and you always looked forward to seeing Ollie.
Hmm.
And so he's touched a lot of people in this community. He's a beloved guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in years, but I was really excited to read the interview with him,
Hmm.
and brought back a lot of happy memories.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, Also, with the podcast episode we did with the extended interview with him,
Hmm.
um, we talked a lot about the history of Minnesota drumming and a lot of the drummers that inspired him early on,
Cool.
like Gus Lopez. Gus Lopez?
Yeah, I'm not familiar. See,
Um,
I need to learn more about him.
well, I want to do a retrospective, a
Hmm.
number of stories about drummers who really were important to the history of Minnesota drumming. That unfortunately their names have just disappeared from history, which I think is a travesty. And part of the whole idea of this show too is that we want to go through the history and we want to talk about what made this community so great and make sure that drummers' names continue on. And I
Absolutely.
think it's important. Plus,
Absolutely.
we're gonna get past the drum set stuff soon. I've reached out to a lot of orchestral people, ethnic drumming. So we'll have more of that on there as well. It's just my background is drum set playing, and
Like mine, but yeah, I've messed around with other stuff too, and definitely want to make sure that this is the kind of thing that like is accessible and open to and for all drummers,
exactly
because we all learn from each other.
right.
You know, I mean that little call and response bit that I did on the floor there a minute ago. That was a Bozio inspired thing. Bozio got that stuff from listening to like African drummers and people like Eric Gravatt who have a lot of African influence in their playing,
Right.
and he'll be the first to tell you that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so it's like my point there is like. After Eric Gravatt, if you go to the African hand drummers, he's picking up on things that aren't being played on a drum set, but are being adapted to the drum set by him.
Hmm.
And so that's the kind of thing that I think is also very important. That's why it's great to expose people to as much as possible of what's going on,
Hmm.
is because we can all learn from each other, and you know,
No, totally.
yeah,
Also, I want to thank Winterland Studios. We're sitting in Studio B, this fantastic studio
this is a cool place.
I've recorded here many times. I've done a lot of production out of here as well for video. Um, and make sure you check out the studio. I'll have all the links to the studio on our website in this blog. This will be partly our home base for some time. But we'll also be getting out more and
Yeah.
talking with more players on site at their locations, so we can give you a taste of different places.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
definitely. Around the community, just like we're trying to feature people from our state that are players. We can get out and we can do these things from different locations that are places where drummers get together or whatever like
Oh,
that.
exactly, totally.
Yeah.
So if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Again, if you have drummers that you want to have featured on Minnesota Drummer, please let us know. And if it's negative feedback, keep it to yourself. Come on, man. Why not, yo?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. If you like to tell your friends, and if you don't, have a nice trip home. Right? Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the camera. So
Oh, yeah.
talk about something right now. Do the rudiments right here
Oh,
with your sticks, and I'll do a nice little shot of that thing. How's that?
Well, I'll give you a little. I'll just tap dance a little with the sticks for you. Give you a little.
Well, thank you for watching Minnesota Drummer. Until next time, see ya.
And there it is. Beautiful, beautiful set of pedals.
Opening beats provided by Alec Tackman. You too can own this fantastic multi-volume library of live drum loops and samples. Whether you're a drummer looking for new ideas or you know a songwriter looking for a drum loop library, this is the library you're looking for. Support a local musician and drummer. Go to Alec Tackman's website. That is www.alectackman.com. Spelled ALECTACKMANN. Are you looking for a drum instructor that will help you find your own musical voice? Whether you're a beginner, advanced, or in between, the David Stanek School of Drumming offers an experienced and professional approach to help you take control of your drumming. David served on the faculty of McNally Smith College of Music for 27 years. Currently, he serves on the Percussive Art Society Drum Set Committee and is a member of the Modern Drummer, Remo, and Vic Firth education teams. David has authored multiple books including Mastering the Tables of Time. It was voted the #1 education book in the Modern Drummer 2009 Readers Poll. Let David help you find your beat. Please visit www.davidstanekschoolofdrumming.com. David Stanek is spelled DavidStanoch, schoolofdrumming.com. Again, the David Stanek School of Drumming. You've been listening to Minnesota Drummer. Minnesota Drummer is copyright 2020, all rights reserved. Any content played or viewed during this broadcast is used with permission, is copyright of their respective owners, and is used for promotional purposes only. No part of this broadcast can be edited, reproduced, and cannot be sold. Please look us up and follow us on our various social media sites. You can follow us at minnesotadrummer.com. There you'll find our contact forum where you can give us feedback and recommend a drummer. Thank you for listening.